So you're telling me that Dada Phalke, who is considered the father of Indian cinema, may not have been the first person to make a movie?
Coming of Alamara changes technology on multiple counts.
So out of circumstance comes technology.
Yes.
You record only in the night because the trains are running through the day.
Yeah.
And now you need lights to shoot because you're shooting in darkness.
Exactly. What killed the careers of many people, that they didn't have great voices.
Because they look good.
They looked good.
Great on siren cinema, but couldn't talk.
Thankfully, playback singing came in course of time, which saved the career for quite a lot of people. Kunal is a star. He might be a star, but he gets a monthly salary.
He's employed.
He's employed. Everybody was employed.
Okay.
And there will be contracts. Zubeda, the famous actress at that point of time. So Zubeda actually broke a contract, and hence Muhammad Ali Jinnah was hired as her lawyer.
Really? Highbrow, upper class Indians did not watch Hindi films. Slowly, everybody, whichever sort of society, class of society or economic strata you come from, nothing compares to the love for Hindi cinema. Hello and welcome to A Century of Stories India, brought to you by IDFC First Bank, always you first. I'm your host Kunal Vijayakar, and in this episode, we are rolling out the red carpet for the story of Indian cinema, right from its earliest flickers to its larger-than-life present today. And joining me is heritage expert and founder of Khaki Tours, Bharat Gothoskar, as we explore how Mumbai became the beating heart of India's film industry. Bharat, welcome back to A Century of Stories India.
Pleasure to be back again.
Yeah, at this time we are discussing a subject which is very close to all our hearts.
Yes.
Especially those of us who live in Mumbai.
Yes.
Because we think that the whole entertainment industry is started from here.
Yes.
Is that true?
See, you have to realize Mumbai as a city, the modern city that we see, is only 350 years old, right?
Okay.
So we cannot make that claim, but we have a long tradition of arts, right, across the country. And artists have always gravitated towards their patrons.
Okay.
Patrons could be either traders,
Yes.
really wealthy traders, or royalty. And most of the time, the royalty had more money.
Of course.
So all sorts of artists, whether they are painters, they were making textiles, they were performing arts, they were singers, whatever, would be gravitating towards the various courts in India.
Okay.
And there were more than 500 of them. So they were the original patrons. What changes with the colonial era coming in is that all of them start gravitating towards bigger cities. And that time, the greatest city in colonial era is Calcutta.
So all the performers, you mean all the performers who did plays and musical, singers and musicians and all that, started moving to the larger cities.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Calcutta is the most, prosperous city about 3 centuries ago.
Okay.
Right? And that is when the badis start coming up. If
Correct.
you go to Calcutta,
the Thakur badis and all that.
So there are badis of various performers. So if you look at it, all the initial great performers that you see in the colonial times are gravitating towards Calcutta. So Gohar Jan and all of them were Calcutta based.
Okay.
Right.
So what you see in a movie like Devdas and all those big lavish Sanjay Leela Bhansali sets are representations of those bodies that must have existed?
That's a modern
take on it.
But I think so Sahib Bibi or Gulam would be a better...
Okay.
And what happens is, as we had discussed earlier, that after the cotton boom,
in
Mumbai, about 160 years ago, is where Mumbai rises as a city. And Calcutta slowly starts declining.
Okay.
And that is when many of the artists realize that Mumbai is the place to come. So they start now all settling in Mumbai.
Okay.
Right? And that is how this already is a rich place, because creative things can only come if creative people are already there.
Okay.
So Mumbai is ripe because this is where they are experimenting with theatre. Theatre has been existing in this city for more than 250 years.
Okay.
But initially it was only English theatre performed by the English people for the English people.
Is that because Bombay was a cosmopolitan city, did not have any of its own internal theatre culture like the rest of the country? Because every state has its own local theatre, folk theatre. But Bombay not having any folk culture really.
No, various parts people would come perform, but they would be street performers.
Okay.
Or there are mentions of Atmaram Shimpi in Girgaum, whose courtyard is used for doing plays, but not in a formal setup the way you see it in a theatre.
Okay.
Yeah, that changes in 1853.
Okay.
When Vishnu Das Bhave comes from Sangli, where he has already made a play, and he pioneers Indian theatre in Mumbai.
Okay.
And immediately after that, the Parsis take up. So
Sorry. Vishnu Das Bhave does Indian theatre. Now this
Marathi.
Marathi theatre.
Yeah.
But is the form of this theatre similar to folk theatre, or is it a sort of more cosmopolitan?
So he in himself is influenced by the Yakshagan theatre of South India. So they are street performers, and he takes that. He has the patronage of the ruler of Sangli.
Okay.
Yeah. So Bhagyashri Patwardhan, the actress, her
Yes.
ancestors,
Her ancestors were the
would have encouraged him, and then he comes what he has experimented earlier, a decade earlier. So Sangli and Bengal at the same time start having local language theatres inspired by the English. Right.
So this is what. So you say they're inspired by the form of the English theatre.
Yes.
Like there's a stage and there is a
Yes.
set and there are
Yes.
performers
Yes.
and stories told in a lateral, in a sort of linear fashion.
Yeah. The Western theatre is evolved from the Greek theatre.
Of course.
And then the influence comes here in that format. We also have had plays before. The Maharajas of Tanjore and all have had plays before. So it's not that it's alien to us. There is enough description in Natya Shastra talking about how it is to be performed, whatever. But this is a Western setup.
Setup is best.
And that is what gets implemented. And there are already theatres which are there in Mumbai, where the first time an Indian play is now performed in a theatre, a formal setup.
So these theatres were set up by the British to perform English plays, and now the Bhave comes in and performs an Indian Marathi play in a theatre.
And which people appreciate, because till then, it's a different setup. There's no outside noise. They start appreciating this theatre. The Parsis start imitating it immediately. So they also take it up. Yeah. So it's around this time, the 1850s, 1860s, is when theatre starts developing. So now artists are already there, right?
Okay, performers
Parsi
are there.
theatre is not necessarily in Gujarati. It used to be Urdu. So they would travel around the country where Urdu is understood.
Oh, I didn't know this. Okay.
Yeah. So they are the ones who are laying the foundation for Bollywood. So, and many of the earlier people like Saurabh Modi and all have a theatre background.
Yes.
So if you look at initial movies are also all with theatrical style of hamming.
It's all that.
Yeah. So that's the reason this city is important. And everything, as I mentioned, 1860s onwards, this is Urbs Prima Indis, the primary city of India.
Correct.
So any new thing that happens in the world will come to this city first.
Reflects over here.
Yeah. And that is how cameras have come. So photography, everybody is interested in photography now. So Maharajas will travel all the way to Bombay to get their photographs done. Yeah. So various studios in Fort area, Kalba Devi is where people are taking photographs. Gramophone comes in. So you can record
music, sound, speeches.
So all these pioneering telephone has come. Yeah. All these are pioneering technologies which are attracted to this city.
Okay.
Now you already have people who are technically skilled. There are artists. So the bedrock has been created
already
to make the leap. And in 1896, barely a few months after invention of making films, Lumiere brothers come and have the first show in Asia, which happens in Mumbai. Yeah, at Kalagoda.
Before we get there, why do you think the Lumiere brothers decided to come and do their first show in Asia in a city like Mumbai, considering that there were cities like Beirut, Lebanon, must have been also thriving cities at that point of time, no?
Mumbai was leaps and bounds ahead of it.
Okay.
Yeah. Imagine when the first sports shop opened in the city, it used to supply shoes to Rangoon and Singapore, because they didn't have sports shops. So we are way ahead.
Okay.
Yeah. We were the London in the tropics. Okay.
I like that. London in the tropics.
So that's what they are creating. Yeah. So as they used to call the second city of the empire.
Okay.
So after London, the most important city is Bombay.
Bombay.
So this So all important things are happening here. And
Okay, so the Lumiere brothers have now landed in Bombay.
Yeah.
And you were telling me how and where they showed their first film.
yeah, so at Kalagoda there is a dilapidated building that you see, which is called the Watson's Hotel at that point of time.
My heart breaks every time I see it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And this is where the first show happens, where women actually hide under the dining table when they see a train coming on the screen. Yeah, and all these are like 45-second films, 4 or 5 films which are shown.
These clips of...
Small clips, what would be real equivalent of today's this thing. And women are scared. They hide under the dining table thinking the train will come out because nobody has seen moving images. Yeah, it's the invention of the century, as they call it, and it's going to dramatically change, and it does. And at that point of time, there are various people who get interested in this, and they want to imitate what Lumiere brothers have done. And within less than 2 decades, India is already now, Mumbai is a place from where filming starts.
So, less than 2 decades from the showing that the Lumiere brothers did, we have Dadasaheb Phalke. Was he then the pioneer of...
Depends on what you define as pioneer. Okay?
Oh, now we have a controversy here, okay? So you're telling me that Dadasaheb Phalke, who is considered the father of Indian cinema, may not have been the first person to make a movie?
Yeah. There was a gentleman called H.S. Bodekar, who was also known as Save Dada. More than a decade before Phalke, he has done recorded documentaries. Yeah, so it's not a film per se, but an Indian has already recorded. There's a gentleman in Bengal also who has done that experiment, but they are not films yet. Okay. Controversy is between the two Dada Sahebs. So there's another gentleman called Dadasaheb Torne.
Okay.
Yeah. And he shot a film a year before Phalke did. But on technical grounds, it was not considered as a feature film. So what was there? It was a recording of a play.
Oh, so he took up a camera, went to a theatre where Playback performed and shot it.
Yeah. Okay. And then it was not processed in India. And the length was not of feature film length. Yeah. On these technical grounds, he lost the title of being the founder of Indian film industry.
Cinema.
A year later is when Raja Harishchandra is released. Yeah. And that is when Phalke does everything. And there's a lovely movie called Harishchandra Chi Factory.
And I've seen that, yes.
Of the trials and tribulations the man goes through. Yeah. He has experimented various things before, including photography.
Correct.
And now he literally puts everything that he has and of his mentors to make the first film in India and lays the foundation for this city.
So, we'll come to how he finally made that film. But when Bhatodekar makes his documentary or when Torne makes his film, where was the equipment coming from? It was all imported? Was it?
Yeah, it has to be imported. There was nothing being made here. So if you have been to Britannia, Cafe Britannia in Ballard Estate, next to it, there is a rooster of the Pathe cinema.
Yeah, the French.
So, they used to provide films. So there are various companies like these which would be providing the equipment, the camera. Okay. And that is why Indians would go to Europe to learn, come back, get the equipment with them, and then processing happened here. Initially processing would happen there, but then processing started happening here. So that's why Phalke is considered to be the founder, because he processed...
Oh, he processed his film here. But that's strange, because when we were young and my uncle had a 16mm camera and it was Kodak film in it and we shot some home videos, that reel used to go to Kodak and Company, which was on Day End Road.
Yes.
The big Kodak
house.
Where that beautiful lift is still.
It's now a school.
It's now a school, correct. And that film used to take 3 months to come back because it used to go to Germany for processing and come back.
Exactly.
Maybe because it was color. I don't know.
Could be.
Yeah. Because if they were, Dadasaheb Phalke was processing in India, I mean, we in the 1980s and 70s should have been not having to send our film to Germany, Let's get back to Dadasaheb Phalke. So what was the sort of the trials and tribulations that a pioneering filmmaker had to go through to put together a story like Raja Harishchandra?
Yeah. So many things were easy, but getting people to work for him, technology was not a problem. He had learned how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah. He trained his own wife to process things and, everything was there. The bigger challenge was to arrange for money, which he was able to convince people, but was to get people to work for him.
You mean act?
Not only act, even generally work. Because what are you working as? How will people go home and tell what are you working? So he gives them a title that you are working in Harishchandra's factory. Factory is respectable.
Okay, yeah, factory.
So where do you work?
Kaam karta hoon.
That's why the movie's name is Harishchandra's factory.
Yeah.
So they are working in Harishchandra's factory, but the challenge, he even gets actors, everything. The challenge is to convince women to work.
Yes, because there were no female actors in those days.
Exactly. And that's why the greatest legend of even the theatre at that time was Bal Gandharva. Yeah?
Who was a man who played women's roles.
Yeah. And changed the fashion women wore that month because he has changed his
because
fashion.
Because he was so he was so well turned out as a woman.
Exactly.
I mean, from jewelry to saris to
and everything. The way he stood.
Yeah, the way he stood.
Yeah.
Posed.
So all this was fascinating, that you are not able to attract women to work in this industry. So he even goes to sex workers to convince them to act, and he's not able to do it.
Because they thought even they thought it was below their dignity.
Very, very below their this thing. Yeah. And they feel that they will end up losing their trade if they act in such bad places. And in course of time, he is able to convince a man to play his first heroine. Yeah.
Okay, so Dada Phalke convinced a man to play his first heroine.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
Anna Salunke is the first woman which attracted people on the screen in India. Yeah.
All right.
And he also has the record a few years later of playing the first double role in Indian cinema, where he was the hero as well as the heroine.
There was such a shortage of actors, and today, if you go to Aramnagar, there are only actors coming out of everywhere.
So imagine him playing Sita as well as Ram in a movie called Lanka Dahan.
My God. I mean, technically, I wonder how they did it, double roles in those days. Maybe just,
yes,
okay.
Yes. Very rudimentary kind
way of shooting. So did that sort of establish Bombay as the hub for cinema or
not? So not only Mumbai, Lahore and Calcutta were also the hubs which were there.
Okay.
Calcutta also used to make Hindi films.
Oh, okay.
Lahore used to make Hindi films, and Punjabi films out there. They were making Bengali as well as...
so what year are we talking about approximately?
This is 40s.
In the 40s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Before that, all were silent films. What was going to change is coming of Alamara in the 30s.
So that means any film, because it was a silent film, could be watched by any language, with no language barriers at all.
Exactly.
So there was no problem.
There would be subtitles which come in between. There's a plate which would come, which usually would be in Hindi and English.
Okay.
So that people could understand. Yeah, a wider section of society can understand what is happening.
What is happening.
So coming of Alamara changes technology on multiple counts.
Okay.
First is, at that time you had to live record everything.
You mean the audio?
Audio.
Which is what we are doing now again.
Yes.
In a way. Yeah.
So live recording, and it happens near Nana Chowk. There is Jyoti Studios.
I remember Jyoti Studios at the foot of Kennedy Bridge.
Yes. It used to be Imperial Studios at one point of time, and that is where the first recording happens for the movie Alamara.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Alamara is made by?
Adeshir Irani.
Okay.
Yeah. Now he was a maverick, and by this time Dada Saheb Torne is working for him.
Oh, okay.
And he really understands public relations, how to make impact on people. Yeah. And he wins the race of making the first talkies. Yeah. Now the problem is, if you've seen the studio, it is right next to the railway line.
Absolutely.
Every 4 minutes there will be a train passing by. How do you record? Yeah. And there are up and down trains. So every minute. So shooting would only happen between 1 and 4 in the night.
When there were no trains.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. And interestingly, this is when artificial illumination comes for the first time in Indian cinema. So technology.
So out of circumstance comes technology.
Yes.
You record only in the night because the trains are running through the day.
Yeah.
And now you need lights to shoot because you're shooting in darkness.
Exactly. And Zubeda, the famous actress at that point of time, and Master Vittal are the main actors who are there. And Master Vittal was quite a bodybuilder, so he was very attractive. But they soon realized that he can't speak And that is where what killed the careers of many people, that they didn't have great voices.
Because they look good.
They looked good.
Great on siren cinema, but
so
couldn't talk.
Exactly. And that's what happened in Western world also, where suddenly a lot of stars who couldn't speak, couldn't sing, were waylaid. Thankfully, playback singing came in course of time, which saved the career for quite a lot of people. But all these were technologies which were now quickly galloping. Around that time, Kisan Kanya, daughter of a farmer, that's the name of the movie, and that's the first colored movie that is made in India. So
really?
Yes. But the trend finally comes only in the 60s when all the movies become colored. But 1930s is when Kisan Kanya is made.
So Adishir Irani, speaking about Adishir Irani, who did the first talkie, and you talked about how the Parsi theatre dominated Mumbai. So did a lot of the Parsi community take to filmmaking and form studios? And
see, Parsi theatre owners might be Parsi, actors need not be Parsi.
Fair enough. Yeah.
So that lineage comes there, that setup comes, and that's why, because they were travelling theatre companies, studios were also companies.
Correct.
That means, suppose Kunal is a star, he might be a star, but he gets a monthly salary.
He's employed.
He's employed. Everybody was employed.
Okay.
And there will be contracts. So Zubeda actually broke a contract, and hence Muhammad Ali Jinnah was hired as her lawyer.
Really?
Because she has broken a contract from one studio to act in another studio. Yeah, just the way today, employees have a contract. Similar things were there. So almost for the first 3 decades of the film industry, everybody got a salary. Everybody worked. The director has a monthly salary. Everybody. Child artist also has a monthly salary. Everybody has a monthly salary.
Writers, everybody.
Everybody. That changes in the 40s when the studio system collapses. And
so let's go back to the studio system. So which were the big studios in that era, in the 1940s, once talkies had come? We hear of Ashok Kumar as one of the oldest actors. We hear about all these studios that existed. A few still left. So Jyoti Studio is defunct right now. Were all the studios in the sort of Tardeo, Nana Chowk area? Or did they...
No. So pioneering shooting happened actually just outside Dadar station.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the reason the road just outside Dadar station on the eastern side is called Dada Saheb Phalke
Marg.
Because there was a Mathura Bhavan, his friend's house, where he shot the first film. Right? And that's the reason it also became a hub. So that's why Ranjit Studios and all were on that lane. People stayed there. So Bhagwan Dada stayed in the lane next to it. Meena Kumar is born on that street because her father was an actor.
Okay.
Right?
So this is Dadar East.
Dadar East, just outside the station. You know Kailas Lassi wala? You take a turn from there and walk towards Hind Mata, Bharat Mata.
Where all the sari shops are.
Exactly. All this was a hub for filmmaking.
Ranjit Studios there. Correct.
Exactly. So all the great actors were looking for cheap space. So there is what is known as RP Masani Road near VJTI today, was once known as Hollywood Lane or Punjabi Gully. All the great Punjabi actors would stay there. K.N. Singh, Saigal,
correct.
Prithviraj Kapoor, his children,
family,
all of them.
Wadala, which is called now. Right? So we've spoken about the sort of beginning of cinema. We've spoken about the studio system, and then in the say 60s, the stars became independent and started
40s onwards. It's the World War II that changes many things. And that is World War II and the partition. That is when Lahore is cut off. Calcutta, because in World War Burma has been taken over by the Japanese, Calcutta will go. So everybody from Calcutta runs to Mumbai. That is how you are attracting talent from various places. So now there's no competition for Hindi cinema. There's also competition from Pune and Kolhapur for Marathi cinema. They also migrate to Mumbai. So then Mumbai becomes the hub for everything, including Bhojpuri movies later on. So Bhojpuri movies are not made in North India. They're made in Mumbai.
They're made in Mumbai.
So this ecosystem which is there, which already exists. And what I find very fascinating is the romance of the city that has done through Bollywood has made this city the most attractive place for people across India and the world.
City of dreams.
City of dreams, totally. So if you look at even the 50s, Ye Hai Bombay Meri Jaan, the song, to 60s, 70s, the plus points and the minus points of this city. How cruel the city can be, how helpful this city can be. the goodness, the underworld of the city, all has been highlighted over the years.
Through cinema.
Bringing out various, and the 70s Mumbai was very different. So the way realistic movies were made by people, Basu Chatterjee and all that, which are not very filmy.
Slice of life
movies. Then there was a parallel cinema which also came up in the 70s.
The Sham Benegal and
totally.
the Benal,
and Smita Patil and Shabana Azmi's, Nasruddin Shah, those who came from theatre traditions gave a totally different cinema.
Absolutely.
This is also the time, 80s, when multi-starrers became, Waqt onwards, multi-starrers came in, grand budgets and things like that. So the transition from having mythological movies to very modern ones, and we experimented over the years. Technology kept on changing.
Correct.
Dolby system came in. Eventually film as a film went away.
And
digitization came in. Right?
Also, there was even on subject matter and style, there was a huge influence of Hollywood.
Yes.
Because we started aping the West.
Yeah.
We started, doing James Bond takeoffs on Hindi cinema.
Yeah.
And we started dressing also like... like Hollywood stars. So that also has had a huge influence.
Certainly. I mean, if you look at initial hairstyles, are very, very Western. The lady would be wearing a sari, but her hairstyle, her blouse will be very, very influenced by Hollywood. So that was happening across the world. I was recently in Egypt, and old photographs of all the Egyptian stars are very, very Hollywoodish. What we would do here. So that influence comes from various places, and people have experimented with many, many influences, right? In terms of dresses, I mean, V. Shantaram has experimented with Southeast Asian costumes in his movies and all that stuff. So people have been taking inspirations. Sets would be influenced by Egypt, by Greece, So a lot of influences coming from around the world has been incorporated in the movies that we have been making.
These movies, So one thing happens somewhere in the 70s and in the 80s actually, is that the whole industry, which is now a thriving thing, gets threatened.
Yes.
Because of piracy and other issues, video actually. Should we talk a little bit about that?
So what happened was, first VCR became popular in the 80s, right? And because of that, there became circulating libraries where you can go and buy.
We all know that.
And that to some extent dented the theatre going public. Because you could now, at the same cost of 2 people, 20 people can come and watch.
Correct.
You would take a VCR on hire and see it in your house. Television came before that. So television was already giving entertainment. Movies were being showed on television. That impacted. Then comes the satellite. Cable comes first.
Correct.
Cable TV comes first.
Yes.
Then with Gulf War and CNN showing the war live, everybody wanted to have satellite television.
Absolutely. Yes.
And all this, eventually OTT coming in. So technology made the whole concept of going to the theatre redundant to a great extent. Right? Only if it is going to be a really blockbuster kind of, visual splendor, then people will end up going to this thing. But now, within 3 weeks of release, it comes on OTT. Many of the movies which are there. So it's not relevant. You can wait for 3 weeks.
I saw an interview of Subhash Ghai, because one of the big filmmakers who's left an impact as a sort of, as a great showman. And he says during the making of Karma, which was one of his films, the industry was going through its worst point because everybody was watching films on video. And he decided to, advertise it as a film that can only be seen on the big screen. And he said, I shot it in such a way, which is very clever, that you would not enjoy it on television. So he says that I shot the whole thing only in extreme wide shots or extreme tight shots. So that, you're running like the whole first 4-5 minutes of the story is running on a very, very long shot.
Agree.
Which is great when you watch it in a big theatre, but when you watch it on TV, it looks like terrible. And then if I have to cut to it, I'll cut to only real closes, which also again over here. And the film sort of revived the whole theatre-going aspect of filmmaking, which is an interesting story, you know.
Totally. And these are the kind of innovations that this city has always seen.
Yes.
To tide over difficult times, you know, whether it is earlier restriction when it came to women not being allowed,
Correct.
or technology, or you know, creating studio systems. We have been very innovative in the way we have done things, and I'm sure we'll continue to rule the roost. And the challenge actually now comes from the southern cinema.
Yes, it does. From Telugu cinema.
At one point of time, the top grossers, majority of them used to be Hindi. Now, last year, I think so only 4 were Hindi and 6 were non-Hindi.
Correct.
That shows the kind of impact other language. And you don't need to know the language. You can read subtitles and you can enjoy that movie. And of course, dubbing is always there.
Always there, yeah.
In the late 19th century, there is a man called Louis Rousselet who comes from, he's chronicling India. And he mentions what today is the Chowpatty area. Is the Rue Breda of Paris. Rue Breda is the infamous area in Paris. The equivalent is here, where he gets into great amount of detail about how there were tents put up where performances happen. Arabs come, British come, you know, different kinds of people who are coming and getting entertainment. Today, Wilson College and surrounding areas, you can't even guess that this would be almost like a tropical paradise for people coming here for entertainment. But that's what this area was at one point of time, because it was not developed, it was on the edge of the city. So all these traditions have created the rock bed for the film industry to thrive, because you need various aspects. You need a poet, you need somebody who can write scripts, you need somebody who can perform, somebody who can sing, somebody who can do the back end of a play. All this existed. Salad bar ready tha, salad bana ke movies banana shuru kiya. So the whole, how do you say it? So it was cooking. Just waiting for the opportunity for films to come and grab all these people together. Exactly. And this created inspiration for other places to then take it up. So to end this conversation, today we know Hyderabad has a huge film, has a huge film industry. We know that Madras or Chennai has a huge film industry. Not so much Bangalore, but of course Kannada theatre also is there. Calcutta is doing a lot of cinema. But Mumbai or Bombay still remains an important city as far as cinema is concerned, isn't it? I think so. The best example that what we can do is the way the Korean government incentivized. If today the younger generation is interested in K-pop, K-drama, K-food, it is because the government of Korea incentivized their people to make films, make movie serials, make music which will be appealing to the world. And we have done that in the 50s, 60s, 70s, where we influence. Even today, when I was in Uzbekistan last year, and people are still singing Jimmy Jimmy and songs like that, the kind of impact that we have on the world. We just need to give more incentives to the film industry that we can continue to have the soft power that we already have. Absolutely, because if you call it an industry, then it is support. Exactly. And it has to be sort of, it has to be sort of supported for it to flourish completely. And although there was an era where the sort of highbrow, upper class Indians did not watch Hindi films, slowly, everybody, whichever sort of society, class of society or economic strata you come from, nothing compares to the love for Hindi cinema and Indian cinema rather. Absolutely. Thank you, Bharat. As usual, it is always a pleasure, and it's just, how do you say, it's the mind just opens when we talk to you, because you have such a wealth of information. And we're not going to let this be the last conversation we're having with you. We will have many more conversations on this fabulous show, which is called A Century of Stories India, brought to you by IDFC First Bank. Thank you, Bharat. Thank you very much. And thank you all for watching. I'm Kunal Vijayakar, your host, and I will see you again soon with another show of A Century of Stories India, brought to you by IDFC First Bank. Always you first.
IVM